Hi, I'm Cleola Kunene. I'm an investor and founder, and you are tuned into the NepoXchange Podcast. I had my first business when I was 19. For Africa, it's still a little bit tricky because, let's be honest, we still haven't industrialized. And you cannot actually grow if you haven't industrialized. I think a lot of people currently in our country are entrepreneurs out of necessity. Have advisors, have people that bring credibility to your business. But with your clients, be consistent, be clear. If you're an entrepreneur, and please hear me, you're an entrepreneur and you want people to support your businesses, but you are buying all your products from Chinese companies and Indian companies and whoever, and you're not supporting local, you're not really an entrepreneur.
A very warm welcome to you and welcome to the NepoXchange Podcast, where we connect you to industry insights as well as share conversations about what is shaping our world today. I'm your host, Mmamoloko Buthane, but you're more than welcome to call me Mamo. And today I am absolutely excited because we have an incredible guest with us today. She is an inspiring powerhouse, a visionary entrepreneur, and a business growth expert who's currently the head of SME development and customer experience at the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, otherwise also known as the JSC. Ladies and gentlemen, her name is Cleola Kunene. Now, Cleola has been very instrumental when it comes to helping African entrepreneurs scale their business, attract funding, as well as access new markets. And today, we will be getting into a little bit about her journey, just to find out what that journey looked like, as well as get some of her insights when it comes to the African entrepreneurial landscape and some advice for the next generation of change makers. Cleola, a very warm welcome to you. Thank you so much for joining us today. And how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling like me. I'm feeling great.
Yeah, feeling great.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for joining us. And I would like for us to actually get right into the thick of things. And I want us to start with getting to know Cleola. So for somebody who is still watching and they still don't know who Cleola is, can you please tell us, how would you introduce yourself to that person?
I'm an entrepreneur, number one. I'm a mom. I am a change maker. I'm a global, and I say global intentionally because it's not just global, is a very doing word, actually. A global business coach and very, very much a South African champion. And I champion South Africa, not just here, but also internationally, quite significantly. And I'm just me, man. Like, what can I say? There's so many things, but yes, I'm always been a very energetic person and always been the person who believes that I can do whatever I set my mind to. So I'm very, very clear on my vision for my life. And I'm flexible on the details of how I get there. But in essence, I am great every single day.
I absolutely love that. You are great every single day. That's absolutely beautiful. And I love the fact that you also mentioned that you are relentless about what it is that you want, flexible on the details, but relentless about what you want. And that is in essence who you are.
In essence, yes.
Absolutely love that. And when somebody looks at your LinkedIn profile, what would you say is the one thing that someone would not guess about you by simply just looking at your LinkedIn profile?
LinkedIn is about PR.
It really is.
So you only put what you think is relevant. I'm kidding in part, but I think what people would pick up, number one, when they look at my LinkedIn profile is obviously that I'm an SME expert. And to be honest, and very fair in terms of this conversation is I still do some work for the JSC, but I've transitioned very much because I do have my own business. I'm very much an investor. And the biggest thing that they may not know is that I actually have a lot of companies that I've invested in. I've got a huge portfolio of companies that I look after and have scaled and have helped over the years. And I've also structured some of the biggest deals, investment deals in South Africa. And there's a lot of things that I've just not put on LinkedIn, because that is the stuff that I've built quietly and consistently. Those are the long nights and big tears, and lots of money lost and lots of money gained. But that is at the core what my next 10 years is going to look like.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. And
Yes.
I like the fact that you touched on this is what your next 10 years are going to look like. I want us to take it a step back, right? So you have worked across industries such as e-commerce, green energy, as well as commodities.
Yes.
Now, when you look at your time working in those industries, which industry would you say taught you the toughest lesson that you will never, ever, ever forget?
Definitely commodities. Trying my hand in mining is very tough.
Hey, at least you tried.
No, I mean, I've got some family members who've been very successful in commodities. And when we talk about commodities, I mean, there's different types of commodities. I've worked in commodities in beef, and, worked out also the beef value chain when we launched beef carcass on the JSE. But working in that space is significantly easier. And in fact, one of our business streams, we've got that in terms of beef. But then there's the mining and minerals specifically. And a former business partner of mine, we're very good friends. He and I embarked on minerals, lithium specifically, NMC, anybody that knows, in terms of batteries knows, that you need specific minerals and mineral processing to get to that battery. And that is a very tough industry. We learned a lot. We grew a lot. We had a lot of backers, but ultimately it's tough. And I just had to make a call and say, is this for me? Is this how I want to live my life? I don't think so. And it didn't really align with my strategy, but it was fun while it lasted.
Yeah.
And then, of course, e-commerce. I think e-commerce was relatively easy, to be fair, for me and my business partner. We did very well with e-commerce. In fact, we built a business that we eventually were able to sell. Somebody acquired the business, more the platform, right? But e-commerce was easy because of how we designed the model and how we did it. Eventually, we had like over 30,000 products on our platform. But what people don't tell you is the more you scale in e-commerce, the harder the operations gets, the harder the logistics gets, and more expensive it gets. So e-commerce will show you flames, not in the beginning, but at the later on.
When you don't expect
it. Yes, mining will show you, commodities will show you in the beginning, e-commerce will show you later. So both very tough lessons, but I'm very grateful. The one I lost money, the one I made good money. So, it evens out.
We love a happy ending.
Yes.
And still on the topic of looking at your career, what is that one big or massive highlight in your career that got you to the point of saying, you know what, I'm actually meant to be here? Which one is it?
So I think that my SME journey, working in SME, so I've been an entrepreneur. I've worked in corporate and kind of sometimes straddling the lane between corporate and entrepreneurship. But I had my first business when I was 19. I'm now in my 40s, and I can tell you that when I started my business, unlike now in South Africa, there wasn't development support. You just had to kind of figure it out, right? But on the other side, the market was much better than it is now, right? So there's pros and cons to everything. But what I understood then, which I fundamentally wanted to resolve for entrepreneurs when I, eventually kind of went into the SME space, was I understood that it's not just about development. It's really about unlocking those things that any entrepreneur needs, sometimes it's just one thing. And sometimes it's just advice, it can just be the business model, it could just be market access. But if you're able to unlock that thing, they don't need you to babysit them. They don't need you to do their business for them. They need you just to help them when they need it. And for me, when I went into that, that was the career highlight, because I haven't looked back since. And just on a personal note, I mean, I lost my husband in 2019, and I launched the work that I'm doing in 2020. And I actually did my thesis mainly on it before then, because I did all that research and that work, trying to really understand how to develop SMEs, working and engaging with a lot of development organizations and entrepreneurs, etc., and understanding why some work and why some don't. And I remember one of the great businesses that I looked at, and sorry for digressing, was a nut. And I'm sure a lot of people know a nut. And looking at a nut versus Nando's, why was Nando's able to scale, and nut being such a great brand, and not able to scale at that level? What are those differentiators? What are those things? Even comparing businesses to that degree, and what are those things? And eventually, developing these solutions. So when I then went into kind of 2020, and it was lockdown, and I kind of was in the midst of grief, this was for me not just the thing that I wanted to do, it was the thing that actually propelled me, because I knew that fundamentally, if I get this right, I really will make a difference. So for me, it's not just a job, it's not just development, it is work of the heart. And also, my late husband was an entrepreneur himself. In fact, my current partner is an entrepreneur as well. So I know the struggles, and it comes from a place of reality, understanding the struggles, understanding the highs and the lows, and the pain points. And if I could, in the space that I'm in the JSE, make a difference, why wouldn't I leverage that? Why wouldn't I use that platform and that brand to actually make a fundamental difference? And I did. I've worked to date with over 50 companies, on average revenue growth of 38%, job creation of over 32%. I've scaled companies into the US, I've scaled companies into the UK, I've scaled companies, and I am part of the Global Entrepreneurship Network. I work with companies in the UAE, in Madagascar, you know what I mean? And all of these companies, I can say hand to heart, we've helped in one way or another. And I can't just say it's me, because I've worked with collaborators, partners, you know what I mean? Other people who are experts in different spaces, who've come in. I mean, once we had a guy from even the UAE come, who was a valuation expert, and it turned out he was the guy that also did valuation, part of the team that did valuation for Uber. So you can imagine, even bringing that level of expertise into South Africa was a game changer. So for me, the highlight is not one highlight. The highlight is that I took something, in a difficult situation, a difficult space, and turned it into light. And I turned it into not only a career-changing advantage, but I turned it into something that tangibly helped people in South Africa and across the world.
Yeah, so there's purpose behind that.
Absolute purpose.
Once you have that purpose, you can go far with that.
And doors open for you.
Absolutely. Yes. And just listening to now your story and the companies that you've helped to scale and so on, you are definitely a leader, right? And what would you say? Usually people ask a question that if you could describe your leadership style, they usually ask, how would you describe it in one word? But what I want you to do is to describe it in one song. So it could be something like, for example, Destiny's Child Survivor, where you are a tough leader who's self-reliant and can overcome adversity with confidence. Or maybe you're Katy Perry's Fireworks, who encourages people to recognize their potential and unleash it, go ham with it. So just with that, if you could describe your leadership style in one song, which song would it be?
Oh, that's such a tough one. I would say Tina Turner, Simply the Best, because
that's an interesting choice.
Timeless, relevant to any age and demographic across, barriers and boundaries. But it's about believing that you're capable, believing that we can do it no matter what it takes. And you've got this. Like I always say to my team, it's figure outable. You really have this. I mean, I've got in the JSC ladies that I've brought into the team, and I'm sure they don't mind me talking about it, because in the first year, I've pushed them to go and do their studies, do more things. And they both graduated in great fields with flying colors. And they were both like, listen, we haven't even been with you like for a year and you've pushed us and propelled us. I'm like, yes, because you shouldn't box yourself based on a title or based on what you were taught to do. You should literally push yourself to try and figure out what you're capable of. And you don't know what you're capable of. But if you already limit yourself based on what you think, you've closed the door. So my job, my only job, is to show them how amazing they are.
Oh, that is absolutely beautiful. And it's true. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're absolutely right either way. And I actually fully agree with your choice of song because it makes me think of the summit where you were speaking to young professionals in finance. And I absolutely enjoyed the talk that you gave because you really were encouraging and inspiring the people to recognize that potential, unleash it, and not to hold back for anything at all whatsoever. Just to remind them that you can do it. And again, as you said, you are simply the best. Go for it. Why not?
Yes.
No, I definitely agree with that song choice, 100%. So now I want us to move on to ticket lists, okay? So what would you say is that one thing that you really, really want to do but haven't done yet?
Oh, I don't think I can say here.
Okay. Is there one
I'm
maybe
kidding.
that you can say?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I think there isn't just one thing. It's very hard to pinpoint it to one thing. I think there's a lot of things that I'd still like to do. One of the things I on my list is to get my pilot's license.
Nice.
Why not? I find buying cars a little bit boring. I'd rather buy an airplane. And it's a better asset. Ask the finance guy in the room. It's a better asset. A car is a useless asset. Useless.
Appreciates.
It's just useless. So an airplane you can buy and even get an old one. It can retain and even its value for years and years, for decades. So for me, yes, it's maybe a higher upfront cost, but a more sustainable long-term benefit. So that's one of the things that I'd like to do.
Okay. And is there another one?
Many, girl.
Many. Okay. We'll keep it at the one for now. All right. And now before we ease into the next segment, what do you think is the biggest stereotype surrounding African entrepreneurship?
Africa has a lot of stereotypes. I think generally we know this, but I don't really want to talk just about the stereotype because there's a lot of stereotypes. I think one of it is that we're coming with a begging bowl, but we're not.
We're really not.
If you compare, and I mean, I've been around the world. I work in global spaces. We freaking rock. And I don't think we actually understand how amazing we are. South Africa, in its essence, let's just talk about South Africa, and we can talk about some of the other territories, is one of the most difficult places in the world to do business in. Out of 49 countries that the World Bank assessed, we are 49th.
Wow.
We are so difficult to do business in because of crime, because of infrastructure, because of cost of things. We've got very high inflation. There's so many things that I can just list. Never mind red tape. We don't even understand how much red tape we have until we start doing business in other countries, right?
That's true.
But yet we have businesses growing and scaling here, despite the fact that our economy is growing at like 0.8%. We have companies surviving, and your company is one of them. So how are we able to do that? We're problem solvers. We're amazing problem solvers. And that's also how we develop our businesses. We develop our businesses on the basis of solving our own problems, solving other people's problems. And that's Africa in its essence. If you look at, I saw something on social media where a lady was comparing, the VC space. They gave somebody an app to I don't know, track their sleeping patterns or something like songs for sleeping. I don't know, $3 million or $30 million, something ridiculous. Yet they passed up on a Nigerian app that was literally, I don't know, was it about drinking water or something? It escapes my mind now. But Oh no, it was how people can transact on their devices when they don't have networks, which is a real thing for us, right?
It is. Yeah.
But the reason we come up with the most amazing solutions, and I've known and I meet a lot of businesses. I can tell you every single day I meet businesses and I speak to business people, reach out to me on LinkedIn and etc. on social media. My DMs are more full of business. I don't get any, hey girl.
Someone tried to shoot their shots.
No. My partner can be very happy. He's like, he knows. Everybody's just like, hey, I've got a business. Da, 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 da.
Can you help me?
Yeah, can you help me? But we are genuinely solving real world problems. Drone technology is an Africa thing primarily. Why? Because we've needed drones. We don't have road infrastructure. If you cannot take medication to the next place, what do you use? Right? No, think about it. You know what I mean? A lot of technology, which a lot of people don't know, even the what do you call it? Lithium battery. The battery comes from South Africa. The IP was created here, right? A cloud IP was created here. So many things actually created in South Africa, right? Or Africa even in general. There's so many great solutions. And I mean, look at our payment systems. I don't know if you guys know that we've got the best payment systems in the world.
We do. We actually do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, why do you think that is?
We're solving the problems.
Not just, we've got great bank infrastructures, yes. We've got world-class governance and rules, lots of rules. But we are mostly device-driven, cell phones. We're informal, right?
Yes, that's
Which
true,
means
yes.
we've had to think about how to reach audiences and people and how to structure banking. I mean, think of SASSA. Millions of people don't have bank accounts, but they get SASSA.
Every month.
That's financial infrastructure, world class, right? So we are great, and I don't want to talk about people's stereotypes because that's their problems, not ours. It's not our problem to own. Our reality is that we actually have figured this out, and all we need is people like me. That's why I'm an investor. That's why I'm investing in businesses. That's why I have a VC fund. That's why I have a debt fund. They need people like me to actually back them with real capital. That's it.
No, you're absolutely 100% correct, because that is mainly one of the main issues with young entrepreneurs moving forward, scaling, growing, is that they usually don't have someone that will back them and help them through that. So that is 100% there. And based on the research that we've done about you, right, we can see that you work across the intersection of three things. That is innovation, growth, and empowerment. And you sort of did touch on this earlier on, but how do you always ensure that the what and the how are always connected to the why? So in essence, balancing strategy with purpose.
I think if you start with the why, which is even you're talking about that talk that I gave, the why is very important. Why are you doing what you're doing? If you are very clear, like to the core about your why, and you're clear about who you're becoming, right? The vision,
Yes.
right? And that talk that I gave us, who are you becoming?
Yes.
And why are you doing what you're doing? Why not you?
Why not you?
Why not you?
Absolutely.
You know, all those questions. If you can honestly answer your why questions, why now? Why not you? Why are you doing what you're doing? Why? Just start before you even go into how or what. Ask every single why, every variation of why. And I do this, by the way. I actually am diligent about assessing myself. I'm diligent about asking myself the questions. I do a review on my progress twice a year because I do not believe in doing the same things every year. Then I failed myself. Like, come on. What kind of life is that?
Yeah.
Once you've basically done that, the what and the how become systematically easier. But I'll give an example because, you know, I think people also enjoy practical. So I also mentor young ladies and coach some people. So I make them do, especially people who either want to be an entrepreneur or are early stage entrepreneurs, I do an exercise with them. Even if you're quite bored in entrepreneurship and you've done this for a number of years, I make you do an exercise where you obviously ask yourself your whys, why you, what do you want, why are you here? Big questions, but then going down to kind of like, what are you good at? Okay, great. What do you enjoy? Okay, now take all of that. What do you think out of this you can use leverage? I'm not even talking about making money yet. What can you do with it? I think we spoke earlier about the lady who baked scones.
Scones, yes.
Oh, okay. I'm good at making scones. What can I do with it? Okay, maybe I can sell a few scones. Maybe I can help a few people in the community. But it doesn't stop there. So I give them an exercise to then go and develop about 30 ideas, random ideas, how to make money. And I put a target of R1,000,000. Beyond your job or your business, make an additional R1,000,000 this year. So this is an excellent exercise to do going into next year. You plan it out this year, you start executing it. Now, they don't land on obviously 30. They eventually land on like 1 or 2 that they're like, okay, this is
These
how
could work out.
these could work. I think only 1 has landed on the million, right? A few of them haven't landed on the million, but guess what? All of them have made more money than they did the year before.
Yeah.
All of them.
All of them, yes.
So when I say the why, the how, and the what, and all of that becomes easier, of course it does, because you understand who you are. You understand what drives you. You are intrinsically motivated then to answer that constantly for yourself. You don't need somebody to answer it every day for you, right? But if you do, there are ways that you can start delivering and developing self-trust mechanisms, right? To actually propel you forward. But this is an excellent exercise, and I would encourage anyone to do it, especially if you're stuck in your earning capacity. You need to maximize your earning potential and your potential as a person. So this is an amazing exercise. So that's how I got to the what and the how, and I always get to it. I look at the why first, and then what can I actually do? And this is something anyone can do, and actually find ways to achieve their goals, but also find ways to maximize their earning potential.
And can I tell you, this is pretty much what you mentioned in that summit or the talk that you gave. I was doing the exercise with everyone else, even though I was watching digitally.
Yes.
But I will say that it is really truly an excellent exercise, because a lot of people always start with the what and the how before they get to the why, but it doesn't really work out, because you'll somewhere stop halfway and not even pursue that. But when you start with the why, literally, as you said, the what and the how comes easier. And that is pretty much how you say you balance your strategy with purpose.
Yes, exactly.
Brilliant. Absolutely love that. And now I want us to talk about how global focus has shifted to green energy, digital transformation, as well as sustainable development. Now, with the African entrepreneurs, where do you see opportunities lying there in terms of that shift in the focus? Where do you see the opportunities there?
So I think, for Africa, it's still a little bit tricky, because let's be honest, we still haven't industrialized. And you cannot actually grow if you haven't industrialized. And it's very, very, this is fundamentally something we have to understand, that without actually the ability to make things, you have nothing to sell, right? You do not own anything, which means essentially you're always paying for other people's things. Now, when it comes to green energy, ESG, of course, it's incredible and it's amazing, and we have to adopt it, which we have. We also have to understand how we use innovation faster to ensure that it actually meets the needs for industrialization. So that's a job to do, to say not just blindly taking what's there from Europe, because they don't need it the way we do. We don't need the level of energy. And if you can just, for instance, the amount of energy you need for a molding machine, for instance, you can't get from a solar panel. You need, a lot more. So we have other problems now to solve, because yes, we will struggle the most as global warming happens. we actually are already experiencing it. I mean, look at the flooding in Durban.
Yes.
So we don't have an option but to actually solve for it. But we can't look to Europe and the West and say, oh, they've done green energy in this way, the East is done in this way, so we just have to adopt what they've done. No. It is our opportunity to actually take what's done and now innovate for us so that we can get the type of energy that we need to do the things that we need to do.
And why do you think, what is the reason why we have not yet industrialized?
Because of how our economy was structured. And most of Africa has the same problem. Nigeria, and I mean, look at what's happening in Congo and Sudan. They're absolutely obliterated because of the minerals they have. South Africa, same principle. There wouldn't have been apartheid in South Africa if we didn't have minerals. Nobody would have cared.
True.
I can promise you.
Yes.
Nobody cared about, what do you call it, going and thinking Botswana. Maybe they did, no, but you know what I mean. But if you have the minerals, what happens when you have the minerals? Everybody wants to oppress you and take advantage of you. They're not there to build. So industrialization means we actually fundamentally are investing in development, in creation. If you have commodities, it's extraction. All right, so we had an extraction industry economy for a very long time,
Yes.
which means we just took and exported, right?
Yes.
And off the back of that, what was created was financial services to be able to trade and bank for those industries. And then obviously economies were built on that. But what were these economies? Food, agriculture, services. Why? Because there's people, there's labor force, right? So you have to sell them. That's why the insurance industry is a 4 trillion rand industry. Sell them insurance, sell them bread. You know what I mean? Have money for the banking. Banking was mainly for the transacting, right? It's an intermediary. But industrialization means we're actually investing in creating things, making things. So if we had industrialization, it meant we would have had to keep the minerals, process the minerals here.
Here, yes.
Right? And then make other things, which means tools would have been made here, cars would have been made here. Sometimes there's even a simple pipe you can't even get in South Africa. You have to import it. So we are a consumerist nation. We have a big problem, which is why no matter what anybody tells you about solving for job creation cannot be solved without industrialization.
Spot on. Spot on. Oh, thank you so much for sharing your insights there. I'm even learning as we go here. And now still on this topic of, the economy and growing and so on, there have definitely been, I want to sort of switch it up a little bit now. There have definitely been talks and massive action towards gender equity, financial literacy. How can we as the community make sure that economic inclusion is more accessible to women and young entrepreneurs and so on?
It's such a big one in our country. I was one of the first teams that were part of the tax-free investment in terms of developing it and implementing it in South Africa. And I don't think people actually understand how important tax-free investment is. I've worked for years as an investment activist, informing people and educating, especially women. In fact, at the JSE, I started She Invests, which is now a really amazing platform, which the team have just propelled to the stratosphere. But the reason is because we lack the confidence and we lack the knowledge, right? And we have one of the biggest debt issues in the country. Like we have, guys, I don't even think people understand how big our debt problem is. So financial literacy, inclusion is very important. I can't say I have all the answers and how we can actually do it, because I think everybody's doing it in bite-sized chunks in different ways, right? But the truth is it starts at foundational level. It starts at home and it starts in schools. And we can't just put all the onus on schools and saying schools must have financial literacy when at home we don't have financial literacy. Right. So if you, and I've spoken about this before, if you are with, your family, your kids, your partner, whoever at home, your parents, talk about money. The information is there, Let's
It
be
really is
honest.
there,
Let's be honest. We're
yes.
not in an age where the information is not there. So instead of going and doom scrolling on TikTok or whatever you do, or I wanted to say, what's the company, Shein? Instead of going
Oh
and
gosh. Oh no.
which is actually, not to digress, but it's a point I need to make. I really need to make this point. If you're an entrepreneur, and please hear me, you're an entrepreneur and you want people to support your businesses, but you are buying all your products from Chinese companies and Indian companies and whoever, and you're not supporting local, you're not really an entrepreneur.
What about the argument that people come up with saying that it is more expensive in South Africa? What would you say to that?
Yes, it is. But I'm not saying that you can't sometimes buy from them. Yeah. Sometimes go and do what you need to do, especially if you're starting out. But if you're the one who's always the one, you've got all the outfit from Shein, from whatever, you're not supporting local. How can you want people to support you?
If you don't support your own anyways.
You don't support your own. You don't support other entrepreneurs. You don't support other small businesses. You don't support small businesses, but you want small businesses. You want your small business to be supported. You're not an entrepreneur. You are a, what do you call that? Just somebody who takes advantage of other people. I don't know what the word is. Like whatever.
That one. Okay.
That one. You're that one. That thing.
You're that guy over there.
That guy. And I think it's something we actually need to deeply reflect on. And it's a very serious topic, actually, because why do you think, why do you think Beijing is so industrial, is so amazing?
Yeah.
Beijing is like amazing. China, people have this idea China's like factories, dirty, whatever. China, guys, is booming. It's booming. Philippines is booming. Vietnam is booming. Singapore is booming. You know what I mean? Go and look. Europe is Europe. US is US. And we're buying US products, European products. We're buying, you're wearing head to toe Gucci. You look like a Gucci ad, but you don't have a single South African brand
product. Yeah.
But you tell me you're an entrepreneur. I'm sorry, you're not an entrepreneur. I will not support your business. You do not support South African businesses. Show everyone that you support South African businesses by actually supporting them. Buy local. You cannot always expect what you do not give. And it's very important. We are building other people's schools. We are building other people's roads. We're complaining that we don't have roads, we don't have schools, we don't have things, but we're not investing in ourselves. So as SMEs, every single SME, actually, it is incumbent on you more than anyone else. Anyone else, fine. Let them go and do what they want to do. But if you're an entrepreneur, you have to think twice about where you are buying and what you're buying.
So in essence, that's one of the common mistakes that you say you've seen entrepreneurs do, in terms of they themselves call themselves entrepreneurs, but they're not even supporting local. So you'd say that they're not. But when it comes to the funding and the growth aspect, what other common mistakes would you say you've seen specifically young entrepreneurs do?
So in terms of the previous point, I don't even think it's a mistake. I'm just saying from a investment perspective, you have to invest in your own. And you have to invest in local. And yes, I'm saying it tongue in cheek and it's funny, but it's actually not funny.
Yes.
So in terms of investment, okay, so I've been in this space for a long time. The number one rule, and I do a talk, I'm actually Chivas. I've done a lot of masterclasses on it, and happy to share a few guiding rules around it. I do a talk called The Language of Money. And the language of money, in essence, is about teaching entrepreneurs about the construct of financial well-being of their business, understanding, one, the economy that they're operating in, and how their type of business makes money in that economy, understanding their business model, then understanding their financials. And people think investment is just about getting money, it's just about, I've got my financials in place, you know what I mean? No, it's also understanding what type of finance is right for your business. What do you need it for? And in fact, do you need it? Or is the problem that you have issues with your strategy, that you don't have a clear value proposition, that you don't have a clear competitive positioning, that your business model in its essence doesn't allow for annuity income, that I can look at your business and tell you that you're actually going to run out of cash soon. You don't know how quickly you're burning through cash. You don't know what your runway is. You don't have a lot of things in essence sorted out. So the language of money is really around not accounting. It's about everything else that goes into developing and creating a sustainable high growth business. And that's what I would say a lot of entrepreneurs do not understand. They don't just not understand financials. They don't understand how to develop a sustainable, growing, and even high growth business.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing that. And yes, just to correct myself, you said it wasn't a mistake with the previous one, but this one that you mentioned, 100% is a mistake that they tend to make, a common one rather.
Yes.
And now when you look at a business idea or business ideas that you've looked at in the time that you've had your career and you're still in your career now, in your experience, what would differentiate a good business idea from an investment-worthy one?
I don't think there's such a thing versus a good versus investment-worthy. The best businesses to invest in fact, are businesses that are brick and mortar, are like the basic businesses. My business partners and I invested in a business, or did we? No, we wanted to invest in the businesses that makes nuts and bolts. It's not a great business idea. It's a great business.
Yeah.
Right? So there's not really such a thing. Build a great business, build a sustainable business, and somebody will want to invest in it. You can have a cool idea, but it's not going to last. I'm not going to invest in it.
It reminds me of a video that I saw some time back on TikTok. I promise I wasn't doom scrolling.
It's fine if you were.
And somebody said sometimes the best businesses come from, quote unquote, the most boring ideas, such as creating paper clips for Standard Bank or something like that. So that's...
I want to be the guy. Who's the guy that makes the rubber bands for Chicken Licken?
Yes. Oh my word. That person is making a lot of money.
Who's the guy? Succeeding. Come on. Who's the guy that makes the rubber band? Like, how many rubber bands do Chicken Licken needs? Right?
Yeah.
Just the guy who made, like, that's a business right there.
A proper one, yes.
Straight up. I have a contract with Chicken Licken rubber bands.
And that's
that guy goes to bed like a king. I want to invest in that business. You know what I mean? That's as simple as it is. Like, so yes, obviously we do love innovation. We love great ideas. We love women-owned businesses. We love youth-owned businesses. And we fundamentally support those businesses because it's important for our own development. And we also support, businesses owned by men. I don't want to just say women-owned, but like men are creating incredible businesses as well. But the one thing that I've learned, and the reason why I went into investing, and the similar thing for my business partners, is also diversification by the investors is important. Because if you don't understand a specific world, why would you invest in it? All right?
Yes.
If somebody comes with a business from Soweto, I've never even been to Soweto. I've just got this idea about Soweto. And you come and you pitch your idea. This is my business in Soweto. I've got this picture in my mind. I'm like, thank you very much. No thanks. That's why, for the longest time, about 70 to 80% of VC was, just in Cape Town, mainly Stellenbosch. Why? Right? Because people invest in businesses they understand, and communities that they understand. So diversification, having diverse investors, and most people think about DFIs and so on. No, it's government. That's not an investor, right? That's a funder, not an investor. An investor helps you grow.
Yes.
All right. Diverse investors, people like me, is very important because I come from a diverse world. I bring a different perspective. I'm from freaking Limpopo, for heaven's sake,
Me too.
Like, so, like I bring it and people are like, oh, Limpopo. I'm like, please, I'll invest in Limpopo. But what I'm saying is you need diversity by the investor in order to start supporting different businesses in different landscapes, different, Yeah. Because as much as you support an idea, you also support a jockey, right? And that's the credibility that comes in through diversity.
And I like that you mentioned that, because it makes me think of, I don't know if you've read this book, The Tale of Warren Buffett. Have you read that book before? But he mentioned literally what you said now, the importance of truly understanding that business and everything about it before you even invest in it.
Yes.
And I also like the fact that you say, even though people like to say, Limpopo, this and the other, you say, it's okay. I know it. This is where I'm from. I know it and understand it. And as you said, I'll invest in it.
Yes.
All good. Yes. No, 100%. And how can we ensure that entrepreneurship is not just a necessity, but can actually be something that is a viable and scalable career in Africa?
It's a little bit more complex. I think a lot of people currently in our country are entrepreneurs out of necessity because of the situation in our economy.
Yes.
We have, I'm not going to go into the statistics, but a lot of people also culturally have been taught only how to go into a job.
True.
And if you don't understand how to create, how to problem solve from a young age, how to sell, it's still a necessity when you go into entrepreneurship, because you don't know how to position solutions, right? And find alternative solutions for yourself. Now, I want to say something before I talk about that specifically. Anyone that wants to be successful in life needs to learn how to sell, no matter what you do. It's such an essential skill. Whether you're in leadership, you can be a nurse. Why? Because everybody needs buying at some point, right? So how we are able to then shift people, coming back to your question, from necessity is also collaborating. You don't have to do everything yourself, right? I always encourage people, yes, you're starting a business, but there's 10 other people who started the same business. I started my fund and eventually, joined my partners, or my business, and eventually joined my partners. I don't believe that we should continue this thing of me, myself, and I. A lot of people are doing things by themselves. They should be doing with other people. Yes. And if you're able to collaborate, what we're going to see is more businesses grow more sustainably. And that would be my only guiding note to a lot of South Africans, especially who are starting businesses. We need to learn how to collaborate with other people.
Love that. And so now I want us to actually take a bit of a break, right? And I want to move into the Mean Tweets segment, okay? So with this Mean Tweet segment, what I want to do is I'm going to read out mean tweets to you, right? Okay. Everyone now has an opinion. Everyone has access to a keypad, and they're out there just typing and sharing their opinions everywhere, right?
So, is it Americans that you're going to read or South Africans?
I would prefer not to say. Okay. They're just mean tweets. Okay.
Okay.
And what I want you to do is that when I read the mean tweet, I would like for you to respond to it. Okay. Are you ready? Mean tweet number 1. Entrepreneurship in Africa is just glorified hustling with fancy PowerPoints.
Fair point.
Okay.
Yeah. We are hustlers, which is what makes us so good, which is fun. Yeah.
Okay.
We actually are. And I don't think we're not.
Yeah.
We are hustlers. Think about, I'll give an example. I spoke in Davos, Switzerland recently. And it was such a great experience being invited to speak global SME, blah, blah, blah. But Switzerland is so boring. There's no hustlers. There's nothing to... Great mountains, beautiful, great for hiking, stunning.
Yeah.
But we're hustling because we're problem solving. We spoke about this. We're actually finding great solutions, and we're excited about finding great solutions. And so we constantly have so many ideas and so many solutions that sometimes we struggle to focus, right, on just one thing.
Yes.
Because there's just so much. Like, we have an abundance of opportunities, actually. So if you lack the abundance of opportunities, you can't have the hustler mindset, because you don't know what that feels like. You don't know what it feels like to have electric energy of like, wow, this is great. Oh, but this is interesting. In a week, you can meet so many amazing businesses and so many amazing people. And I'm sure you guys have experienced it. Like, why wouldn't you hustle?
Yeah, that's a true question. Why wouldn't you? And funny enough, I was actually telling my brother, yeah, not to digress as well, but I was telling my brother that one thing that I also really love about a place like Johannesburg is that there's that hustler energy. Everyone is always out there doing something.
Yes.
And as you said, compared to places like Switzerland, I've only been there one time and I
Yes.
thought it was absolutely stunning. But now that you mentioned that it was boring, I'm thinking, actually, I also did not experience that electric energy of people always going out there doing something.
Yes.
So, okay. So in essence, yes,
Yeah.
main tweet number one is correct.
Yes,
right?
it's
We are
correct.
hustlers.
It's actually, you're not wrong. We're hustlers.
Yeah.
That is at the core. And I think, even if you go to Nigeria, they're hustlers.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
They are, listen, they're popping. But if you don't have exposure to that and it's like, shame, it's okay. We understand that you're coming from a premise of boringness. It's okay.
I love the
We
line.
can't relate, but we get
relate.
it. We can't relate, but we get it because we're hustlers.
Okay, so I'd like to move on to mean tweet number 2. African startups can't scale without foreign investment.
In part, true.
Okay.
Because capital in Africa is very expensive. There isn't a lot of capital because people who do have capital here hoard it, right? Actually, Africa's got some, in South Africa in itself, got some of the wealthiest people in the world, right? Where does the world's mineral come from? From us.
Yeah.
So the people that actually, which is so crazy, mind-blowing. Look at what's happening with France, and let's have an honest conversation. France is cut off from Africa's minerals, and France is in a financial crisis.
Yes.
Not even a year later.
Yeah, it happened very quickly.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
So if Africa took back all its minerals, cut off everybody, who would need aid?
Definitely. The ones who say we need them, they're the ones who are going to need help.
So if we can shift the dial in terms of building our own, again, industrializing, elevating our economies by also some protectionist policies, we wouldn't need anybody else's capital, right? And also, if we can start stopping people from stealing, there's a lot of theft that happens in Africa. And I know people just think government corruption. No, the biggest thieves are the biggest billionaires in the world that nobody knows about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
there's a lot of billionaires just sitting here that people think the billionaires are the people that you see on Forbes. No. So I think there's a lot of money in the world, but fundamentally, yes, we need the capital because our minerals and our resources are being extracted and we are not benefiting from it, but other countries are. And it's the same principle. We have the best quality wool in the world, in the Eastern Cape. Our sheep get sheared, the wool goes to China, it gets processed there, then goes to Italy, and we buy the jerseys and the clothes from Italy.
They sell it back to us.
They sell it back to us.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Okay. Mean tweet number 3. Government programs are all red tape and no real support.
I don't think so. I think we're very lucky to have as many government programs as we do. When you go to other countries and you start understanding, South Africa actually has a lot of development support. A lot more than, it's just that we don't necessarily take advantage of it. You can go just next door, Namibia, is there development support for SMEs? I don't know. I don't think so. Not to this scale. We have ESD, we have all of that. We've got all these government programs. Yes, there's a lot of red tape. Of course, we can't get away from that, and we've spoken about that. But there's a lot of development support.
Okay. And then last but not least, and I think this one might be not necessarily close to home, but a lot more relevant. Coaching and mentorship don't really make a difference. It's either you have it or you don't.
Not true.
Not true.
There was a study done by UCT that stated that most companies, especially startups, fail or succeed on the basis of the entrepreneur, the founder. Now, if you're a founder, how much do you actually know? Right? You know your business, you know your product. But coming back to, I mean, the lovely example of the lady with the scones, she may be great at baking, but she doesn't know how to develop a succinct and sustainable sales strategy, how to price right, how to, figure out her distribution, how to figure out a lot of things. That's the purpose of these things. And the onus is on the person who is learning it to actually adopt it and enable themselves through it. It's only as relevant as you want it to be.
Thank you. This is how we respond to mean tweets.
Okay.
Absolutely love it.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I'd like to move back into the meaty topics, right? And just in terms of young entrepreneurs, we know there's so many of them out there. What advice do you have for them in terms of how can they build trust, not only with investors, but with their customers? How can they do that?
I think with trust is through credibility, right? And consistency. One of the things when I do the discussion around the language of money and we talk about pitching and talking about positioning your business, one of the things is, who do you have on your business? Even if you're a solopreneur, have advisors, have people that bring credibility to your business. But with your clients, be consistent, be clear. Even if you can't do certain things, don't overcommit. Pay attention to your customer experience. I think credibility and trust and all of those things just come with time, but you can certainly put the right things in place to develop that.
Okay, so literally, as you said, credibility, being consistent, and over time, then it will build the trust with the investors and the customers, and in essence, propel the business or the young entrepreneur into growth and succeeding.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, even if you have a board, I mean, I've seen people's boards where they have the uncle and the cousin on the board.
Yes.
That's not really credibility. You can have one. I'm not saying you can't have a family member, but have some external people have, that bring a different flavor and actually some guardrails to say questioning things. And so it's not just a one-sided view.
Definitely, fully agree with that. And if you could redesign Africa's entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial rather ecosystem, if there's one thing that you could change, what would it be?
I would definitely change our value chain as a whole. I think there's a lot of duplication in the system in terms of the ecosystem. Everybody's doing the same thing instead of, collaborating and doing things together. And that's one of the things that believe I've done very well at the JSC is bring in partners and for us to collaborate. I mean, even our accelerator program we're doing with UKSA Tech Hub, we're doing, so many amazing things with other people, not by ourselves. I think if you look at the best entrepreneurial ecosystems around the world, and I'll give India as an example, and you guys can go and research it yourself. There's a program called NASCOM. Now, they started in the 90s. They said, think digital, think India. And when they developed this, they said, okay, everybody that does digital education, in the value chain, you do this, mapped it out, right? If you want to do the same thing, collaborate, so that everybody that does incubation once they graduate, the nursery work experience phase together, everybody that funds it, in a value chain, everybody that does the placement, and then the guys that actually have the companies, the guys that have the market expo, blah, 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 whatever. And all of that supported by foundational funding, at the baseline across the board. Now, they developed this years ago just on, what do you call those technical call center guys alone. For the US, they've got over 7 million people providing that service from India. Just that one alone. So their strategy around that, and I can use many other examples, worked because they created a cohesive ecosystem instead of a duplicative ecosystem. We have a very high duplicative ecosystem. You guys specialize in green energy. In Hong Kong, for instance, they have a green energy hub. All the green energy businesses come together, which means they cross-pollinate in terms of ideas. They cross-pollinate,
Yes.
They're competitors, but they're also collaborators. And that ensures that they are the best version of themselves. It fast tracks their solutions, and some of them even merge, right? So if you are in isolation and your neighbor's a hair salon, you're a hair salon, 10 hair salons in one street.
One street, yeah.
You don't have economies of scale. You don't have the best pricing. You know what I mean? There's so many things that you actually cannot take advantage of. Whereas if you find ways to be cohesive, you are the best version of yourself. And it's cheaper and just more compelling and more competitive. And that's what I would change about our ecosystem in general.
Wow, that was very, very insightful. And I guess it could also open somebody else's eyes to this, because we might not necessarily pick it up. But when you mentioned 10 salons on one street, I'm thinking, actually, I've even seen that myself. You see it everywhere. And now you also touched on the topic of funding. It's a very, very, very hot topic. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs who perhaps feel overlooked by investors?
I think it's easy to be overlooked by investors because investors have a very specific mandate. I've seen people go and apply to an investor that does healthcare, and they come in with a technology solution or a service business. It's a misfit, right? So I think the first thing is, if you're being overlooked by investors, just take a step back and reflect why. Ask the questions why for yourself and ask them why. Because most times people just apply without actually doing the homework, right? Not all VCs are for you. Not all private equity firms are for you. And in fact, VCs generally are looking for high growth businesses, which actually excludes a lot of businesses. And debt, quite often, we also do debt, is probably what you need. But if you are looking for investors, look for the right. There are VCs that will invest in services business, but you have to look for the right one, for instance, right? You can't just, whether it's agri or whatever, you have to find the right fit for your business, number one. Then it's less likely and overlooked, and maybe work on this, work on that, right? Yeah. But if you're just being overlooked, it means there's just no fit. Because I can tell you, we constantly look for businesses. We constantly want to meet businesses. And if it's not working, then we will tell them, okay, your financials are not right. Your business is not scalable in terms of this model. Work on XYZ. So try and understand what that business is about. Even when it comes to funding, not all funding is for you.
Yes.
Right? There's so many variations of funding. So try and figure out what is right for your business first.
And for that entrepreneur who's currently at home waiting for their big break, and now you've shared with them, this is what you need to do or how to navigate it if you feel overlooked by investors. What, in the meantime, while they're waiting for that big break, what programs or opportunities would you say that they should get their hands on to help them grow their business, succeed, and also just build up their confidence as well?
Oof, that's such a difficult question because there's so much.
It's so much, right?
Yeah, I think it's a lot. So I suppose my question would rather be, what is lacking? Why does somebody feel like they need capital to begin with? Most times, most businesses need clients more than they need capital, right? Because a client is better than money. If you do need capital, it is this for the development or for scaling. But if you need capital for, while your business is ongoing, or you've just started, if you just started, especially then you don't need capital, because you need to, then it's friends, fools, Because as an investor, I want to invest in something that I can see, right, is going to grow. Because otherwise I'm paying for your mistakes. Yeah. I'm not paying for your growth. I'm investing in your mistakes that you still need to learn. Yeah. And investors don't want to invest in other people's mistakes. They want to invest, not even your family is going to invest in your mistakes.
They definitely won't.
We want me to take my money and invest in your mistakes. So learn your mistakes first, right? If you're early stage. If you are already growing business and you're having some challenges, I would rather say, what is going on? Try and assess what's going on in your business, what's going on in financials, what's going on with your clients. I love the strategy around diversification, because try and diversify. But more importantly, look at your business model. annuity income, recurring income is always important, and try to get to that. Even if you've got customers and not B2B, try and get stickiness with your clients, because it's very costly to try and get new clients every single time, new projects every single time, government contracts every single time. Try and develop a solution with your existing clients that gives you more recurring capital. But look at your financials, because usually when people need money, something is up.
Yes.
Right. So the question I would ask is, what's going on? Maybe spend some time understanding what the problem is and how you can solve it first before you start asking for money.
Okay, that is a very good one. Just taking the step back and investigating what could the problem be, rather than just feel sorry for yourself waiting for that big break.
Yeah, try and understand what's going on. But if it's for an opportunity, that's great, because if it's for an opportunity to scale or whatever, that's great. Then it's capital that's worth it. But if you're in trouble, remember, it could be more costly to get money in the long run.
Yes.
So yeah, but if it's an opportunity, then rather go and speak to people who've done it before.
Yes.
And ask them. You know, I mean, like as we say, we just say there's so much development support in South Africa. Come on, there's lots of opportunities to speak to the right people who can help you and guide you.
Yeah, and again, links back to that coaching and mentorship where they can help you through that.
Yeah.
And now, before we wrap up, any new projects in the pipeline that you're excited about? Any new events or gigs?
No, I mean, like I said, I've got my fund where my business partners are doing incredibly well in the fund next year. That's going to be my big focus. So you'll see a lot more of that.
Yes.
In the news and in, my LinkedIn, etc. And because I do a lot of global speaking, etc., I think my focus is really going to be on honing in and trying to help the African entrepreneur in terms of their journey, because I believe that we don't necessarily get the best rep for whatever stereotypical reasons, because it's not our fault. We're amazing. But there is a lot of work to do to position us. And there's a lot of capital in the world. And one of the things that's one of my rock star skills is the ability to bring capital into the country. And that's something that I want to hone and do more of, because I do think that in order for us to grow, we need people like me that actually are capable of having the right type of conversations with investors to help them feel like this is a safe bet.
Yeah. No, and we appreciate people like you, because you're really doing a lot for the young entrepreneurs in this country and everywhere else. And we definitely need more people like you. I wish we could just duplicate you and have like a whole bunch of Cleolas here.
That's too much. You'll be tired. I'm even tired.
And so in terms of where we can find you on social media, will you please share your social handles?
Mainly I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay, yes.
I do have Instagram, but I'm not an influencer, so
it's not Instagram like, influencers.
I don't know. Like, you'll go to my content on Instagram, you can go, but it's gonna be like, oh.
Is that it?
Yeah, okay, that's it. It's not like, I've got like flower decorations or a trip to Bali or anything interesting. So I think LinkedIn is always best, but if you don't have LinkedIn, Instagram is second best.
Instagram is second best. Okay, well, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here on this podcast and sharing your expertise, your advice, and just to get to know a little bit more about you and your journey. Now, before you leave, we have a little surprise for you. This here is just to say thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, wow. Thank you, guys. Very nice.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning into the NepoXchange podcast. Check us out again next time. Cheers.